the touch of your lips, dear, but much more for the touch of your whips, dear. You can raise welts like nobody else as we dance to the masochism tango.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Hourgasm. This is the podcast where we talk about decolonizing gender and sexuality. I am Lindsay G. I use she, her, and hers, and sometimes they and theirs pronouns.
And I am Lenny Peppers. I use she, her, and hers pronouns.
On this episode, we are going to dig our fingers into the concept and history of femininity, which, first of all, is a hard word to say. It's an even harder word to spell, and I feel like they did that to us on purpose.
I was telling one of my kids today what this episode was about, and they were like, I can't even say that word.
Seriously, too many N's, too many I's. As I was trying to do some research and take notes for this episode, I kept spelling it wrong. Putting P's in there. But anyway, so we're going to talk about femininity and womanhood and how those two ideas, work together or don't. Whether they're the same idea. And there's really a lot of ground to cover. I feel like this is one of those topics where we could probably come up with multiple episodes that deal with subsets of information about femininity.
Oh, yeah.
So
totally.
For now, we're just going to try to put in what we can, and then we'll have more episodes birthed out of this later on.
I think that's where we've been going with this whole first season. We talked about really broad topics, but we could dig way deeper into them and kind of single out certain subtopics in each one and still get a whole hour out of it. And I should mention that we don't much to the chagrin of our editor, these episodes don't take us an hour to record. We usually actually talk for hours, sometimes 2 hours or more on each topic, and then a lot of it gets edited out in the end. And we're trying to be better about doing an hour for our editor so that he doesn't have to edit out so much, but it's so hard. So I feel like we could talk about all the things that got edited out as well.
We could do maybe special episodes for super fans that are tidbits that were cut.
Oh, totally.
You can just guess what the hell we were talking about.
Yeah.
And you can listen to us burp.
Yeah. And sigh dreamily at each other, I guess.
Yeah. And imagine us batting our eyelashes, which we do, but you can't see it because we don't record that part. And sometimes you can hear my cat being a jerk and me yelling at him. I'm sure. I don't know if my cat being a jerk to me is going to make it into any of these episodes or not, but it does happen kind of regularly.
I hope so.
Okay, so femininity. This is obviously a huge topic, as we just said. And there's so many different angles that we could start with, but I guess maybe the easiest way to get into it is to talk about what it actually means.
Mm-hmm.
So the easiest entree to that is to look it up in the dictionary, which I did. I was disappointed to find that in Merriam-Webster's Unabridged Dictionary, the definition of feminine and womanly is pretty much exactly the same, which is characteristic of belonging to or suitable to women, for womanly, and for feminine, characteristic of or appropriate or peculiar to women. So it really doesn't take us very far. I guess I could look up the definition of woman, but I was kind of satisfied in being a little dissatisfied with these because that's kind of how I feel about the concept of femininity in today's culture anyway.
I went to the Urban Dictionary to look it up.
Oh, no. Never do that.
The top definition was the female gender role. Not all of them are exactly like this, but most are. It is in a way built to fit the male gender role, masculinity. Feminine traits include, but are not limited to, understanding, empathetic, sensitive, submissive, gentle, modest, willowy, and pretty.
Willowy?
And I feel like, yeah,
What
yeah. Which
What?
is
Wait, wait. Isn't willowy what you call like a tall, thin person? Or is there like another definition to willowy? I'm looking this up.
so in the Urban Dictionary, a girl who is tall with long limbs and long hair resembling that of a willow tree, intended as a compliment. Damn, girl, you look willowy. Just kidding. I don't know.
Merriam-Webster's Unabridged says that willowy is resembling a willow, gracefully tall and slender, delicate and supple. So I guess the gracefulness, okay, delicate, okay. Not sure about like the tall aspect. That was completely out of left field. Did not see that coming. Okay. Interesting. Like the rest I can at least understand how people think that, even if I don't agree with it, but willowy I don't know about.
But I feel like the Urban Dictionary version of it, the Urban Dictionary definition of it was my favorite one of the three.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, it gets a lot more specific. I also dug into Wikipedia, which I actually feel like is pretty good for this kind of thing because it is crowdsourced and like much more so than academic definitions. Most of us live our lives according to, crowdsourced definitions of things. So there's obviously like a large article about femininity on Wikipedia, but there were some standouts that I thought I would read. First of all, traits traditionally cited as feminine include gentleness, empathy, humility, and sensitivity.
Okay.
Let's see. And then there are quotes from different thinkers who have sort of put different ideas into play, which I won't get into just yet. Then, here's a whole list. Feel free to call any out if you don't agree with them. Traits such as nurturance, which I didn't know was a word, sensitivity, sweetness, supportiveness, gentleness, warmth, passivity, cooperativeness, expressiveness, modesty, humility, empathy, affection, tenderness, and being emotional, kind, helpful, devoted, and understanding have been cited as stereotypically feminine. So that's what we're working with as far as like what the dominant culture sees as feminine at this point in time. Okay, so we're going to talk about real quickly the fact that when we're talking about femininity and womanhood, we are unequivocally talking about expressions of gender. And for both of us, I am pretty sure I'm correct when I say this, gender to us is not connected to what you have between your legs. We both strongly believe that trans women are women, non-binary people are whatever they wish to be. As far as our working terminology here goes, sex applies to the physical attributes of your, down there region. And what we are talking about instead is the expression of self that people can identify with as more masculine or feminine, neither, both, whatever works for them. We are talking about the feminine sort of half-ish of the spectrum of gender here.
Absolutely, 100% what Lindsay just said. So I wanted to start with talking about my mom has always been, without ever calling herself a feminist, my mom has always been a feminist. She's always believed that women have the ability to do all the things that a man can do in the world. When I was really young, she actually said something to me that stuck with me for my entire life. I still think about it to this day. And she said that our people believe that a nation is not lost until its women's hearts are on the ground.
Whoa.
Yeah. And what it comes down to is I was basically raised with the belief that women are essentially the hearts of the community, and nations are created and held up by strong women.
I love that. It also sounds to me like it's getting at sort of the depth and fierceness of the female heart, like that the strength there is what upholds a people.
And then that of course to me, working into like my area of study, which is extremely niche. For those of you who don't know, essentially I study Native representation in art and media and how we use these forms as tools of resistance. And so one thing during my studies has become incredibly clear, and that's that female Native American perspectives have been grossly neglected in mainstream media and educational curriculums. And so while I was doing my research for this, it was very, very clear to see that like so many of our stories are just gone forever now. But I just want to mention before I get into it that it's important to remember that the experience of one tribe is not necessarily the experience of another tribe.
Right. Yeah.
There are hundreds of different tribes just in this country alone.
Yeah.
It comes down to a couple of main things. First, our stories have been mostly told by white males who either only ignore Native American femininity or totally fetishize Native American femininity. And so these problems are extremely clear today when we look into the issues of murdered and missing Indigenous women.
Right.
Which outwardly shows what happens when a group of people is erased.
Right.
People don't care about what happens to them. And then fetishized, which makes us targets for violence.
Right.
So right now, to give an example of this, a single tribe here in Montana, I'm a descendant of the Crow tribe. And right now there are 28 open cases of missing women right now.
Oh my God.
In fact, Hulu covered this in their show Dead Silent, season 4, episode 8, about Rylan Rideshorse, who was a woman who was taken and tortured and burned and was found alive. So if you guys want to kind of watch that and I think they go into murdered and missing Indigenous women a little bit more as well. 84% of Native American women experience violence in their lifetime. And murder is the third leading cause of death for us.
Holy shit.
In 2016 alone, more than 5,000 women were reported missing.
Wow.
And those were the ones that were reported. More often than not, they go unreported or are like reported as other things like exposure, where you have a perfectly healthy young woman dying of exposure, like just feet from their house.
Yeah.
And things like that.
That happens like a lot and has happened a lot recently. Just this year, there was, I think it was like at the end of last winter, maybe? God, I don't remember. But there was a young woman who went missing and was missing for like 2 weeks. And it actually got quite a lot of attention, which was really good to see. Like people were getting really fired up about it. And then she was found like right next to where she disappeared. I think it was like 100 meters away or something from where she had gone missing from after 2 weeks. And they said that she had died of exposure. And it's like, if she had been out there for 2 weeks, 100 meters away from where she disappeared, she would have been found.
Yeah. And she's not the only case from that specific area where that specific coroner has used exposure as a way that these women died. Right. The majority of women today with Native American ancestry do not live on reservations. They make up a considerable part of the population.
Right.
But because Native American women are basically just represented by popular culture in either the Plains context or a generic Indian context, or as a squaw.
Right.
So that's like kind of where we stand